No, it doesn't go bling.
No.
Your phone does. We'll do part 2. We just started this a minute ago and we're unable to pick it up on the Facebook. Then bling now. That's
I've got that before.
Yeah, I don't know why I didn't do that. So, back to what I was saying. So what we're doing today is we're doing Merlots, and it's a much maligned grape in Australia, and a much maligned grape even amongst retailers, and probably even sommeliers. It's one of those things that when we look at Merlot, well, let's just ask Pat. So, what's your opinion on a Merlot? What do you think of it as a Merlot?
So like a fruit-forward red.
That's what happens when you don't turn your phone off, and it actually gets phone calls in the middle of a live stream. Yay! Oh, anyway, so back to what we were saying.
Let's just drink.
Let's just drink and get it over with. So hit it on there.
So so fruit-forward red. Easy drinking. Goes. I more see it more in blends like Cabernet, Merlots, and yeah, that's pretty much all I know about it.
So, then.
As I said before,
Yeah.
generally earthy, mushroomy sort of base to them, and I find them a lighter style wine generally. It's not as big and fruity as a Shiraz or as heavy and tannic as a Cabernet. So.
Okay, so essentially, you're both quite correct with that. You might actually have to take this. You might have to take this. This might be the Paul and the Carpenter. So what actually I find is that Merlot is when you come into drinking wine, you come from kind of two different directions. One, you come from RTD sweet styles. You go through your Dulcettos and Moscatos, going into Banrock section, Cabernet, and then from there you're trying to get into your dry wines, and that's when Merlot seems to sort of turn up quite a lot. It's like, I want something. I don't want my sweet stuff, but I want something that's still got fruit, and I still want something to drink. And they go, we'll have a Merlot. It's softer, easier drinking sort of style. And you go, okay. And so Merlot is like that gateway into wine. And with all gateways, once you pass through it, a lot of people don't bother looking back. So that's one of the things. The other direction it comes from is if you're brought up, particularly in the European sort of background, you'll come from those dry style wines, and you're looking for something that's really fruit forward, or something that's really quite, the tannins and acidity is really important. And again, Merlot is one of those wines that you'll drink, and it's actually a classic style wine. But when you drink an Australian Merlot, completely different. You drink an Australian Merlot and you look at it and go, I was expecting more.
Yeah.
So this is why we decided to do Merlot, to try and show and explain that Merlot, whilst it is a gateway into dry red wine drinking, it is actually also a wine that you can come back to and look at it again and again. So we're going to look at 4 Merlots today. We're going to be looking at one from Lucendale, from De Giorgio Wines. And we're going to be looking at that as a good basis for a good sort of South Australian Merlot. We're going to look at Amadio to give you an idea of what Merlot can look like when it's blended with some bits and pieces as well, because it's got some blending in there as well. We're going to look at a McLaren Vale Merlot, which is kind of that gateway I was talking about, but it shows a lot more character. And then finally we're going to look at one of my ideas, what I really like is the aging upside of Merlot, which is the Missoni Estate 2012 Merlot. So we'll have a taste of the first one. So De Giorgio from Lucendale. So De Giorgio is a renowned Cabernet producer, particularly in Coonawarra. They own vineyards just north of Coonawarra in a place called Lucendale, where they draw most of their larger production grapes. So exceptionally lovely, great vineyards, really well made wine. I think it's Frank De Giorgio is the owner, and he's the man who really talks about his wines and loves his wines. They win the Coonawarra Cabernet Challenge regularly, so they're kind of one of those renowned wineries from down there. But you don't see them around the place a great deal, so it's always a good one to look at. So from Lucendale, so when I look at a Merlot, my giveaway for Merlot is tomato bush, mushroom, forest floor. Those 3. So but usually with sweeter red fruits at the front of it. So
It's really plummy sort of colour.
yeah, and that's the other part. Merlot is a thicker skinned grape, so therefore it is going to have a bit of colour. It's also a really good growing grape. It's one of those grapes that can handle heat and cool. It's not as prone to disease as, say, Pinot Noir. So it can be grown in cooler climates. It can be grown in maritime climates. It can be, in fact, it's really renowned in maritime climates. And in fact, Merlot is one of the 6 classic grapes of Bordeaux.
Yeah.
So your left bank Bordeaux's are classically Cabernet, that's in the Medoc region, and on the right hand side, the right bank, you've got Saint-Emilion, which is Merlot dominant. So you've got literally those regions. Côte de Blanc is a bit more Cab Franc, and Côte de Bourg is also a bit more Cab Franc. So this is Merlot. So again, on the nose.
2014.
2014, yeah, it's got a bit of age on it, which is lovely.
Oh, it's 2000. Oh no, it's 2014. That one.
2014, that one. So, there's no big there's red fruit, but there's no big sweet red fruits to it. It's a lot more earthy, a lot more of that mushroom, forest floor, and that tomato bush for me. So, if you don't know what tomato bush is, imagine tomato plant. When you pick I suppose you've really got to be a farmer to get that kind of thing. When you go to a tomato plant and you tear the tomato from the vine, there's this real explosion of that sort of herbaceous
green smell. It smells green.
Oh, it smells, for me it smells green but herbaceous, that really herbaceous tomato smell.
It's got quite a it's got almost furriness on the tomato stems and stuff that comes off.
And if you get that, if you do that with and smell it, that's exactly what it smells like. And that's right. And it's classically, if you're looking at Merlot, if I put Merlot and Cabernet side by side, just from looking at it, you wouldn't be able to tell. If it was an old world style Cabernet and Merlot, even on taste, you would struggle a little bit because blackberry fruits, tomato notes. Again, you find it a little bit harder to judge the difference, especially on aging. But what they give away is the earthiness, and the high acidity that comes in Cabernet is the way you can tell it apart. So, Pat, what are you talking about this one?
Yeah, I'm starting to see what you mean by the tomato bush. Yeah, like the fruit isn't as bright as some of the other ones we've had, but yeah, very easily drinkable.
Yeah, and this is the thing, is that when I taste it, I actually get a couple of different flavours. So what are you getting out of yours then,
I do get the tomato, but I think more that it's really quite tight, I'm finding. And as soon as you put it in your mouth, it doesn't make your mouth water.
That's tannins.
Yeah.
So
They're
therefore,
a tight tannin, they're not.
this is what I said, when you can confuse Cabernet and Merlot, the tannins are actually very similar. The same sort of pyrothings that are in tannins for Cabernet are very similar to the ones in Merlot.
So I thought Cabernet always had
Bigger, tighter tannins.
Yeah.
So does Merlot. But the thing is, when you grow it in Australia and let it hang a little longer in a hot climate, it gets more sugar to it, it becomes fruitier. And the tannins don't become quite as powerful. If you pick it too early, you're going to get these green, nasty tannins, which are not generally favoured for Merlot. But the more you leave it, the less acidity it has. The less acidity it has, the more the fruit comes forward and the softer and easier it becomes.
So there's a real Goldilocks zone for
there is. Yep. And that's for all grapes. So there's always that Goldilocks zone that's really important.
It's more mid-palate wine than...
And that's exactly what it's for. That's why when Pat said it was in blending, why is the Bordeaux grape Cabernet, Merlot, and Malbec and the rest of them?
So I can fill the whole thing out.
Oh wow!
Thanks, Jack.
So this is by Jenny today.
Bon appetit.
Oh yum! Wow, I think we might just skip the rest of this taste.
Yeah.
Let's go straight to the food. So yes, as I said, that's. I can't remember what I was saying now. The food's turned up.
Yeah, Jen's taste.
Oh, blending. That's right. So, Cabernet, Merlot fills the hole, and
No, we're good, thanks.
no, we're fine. We're good. Merlot fills the hole in the mid palate. So, Shiraz, Cabernet, Merlot. Shiraz being fruit forward dominant, Cabernet being back palate dominant. Merlot fills the hole in the middle.
Yeah.
So this is what classically Merlot's for. It's
So,
a
like-
good blending grape.
Like Cab Merlot, Shiraz is.
Well, Cab Merlot, Cabernet has a little bit of fruit at the front and a lot of flavour in the back, but it's a sort of a hole.
Merlot fills that hole.
And the whole Merlot fills that hole.
Oh, okay.
So, like we talked with GSM, Grenache fills the front part with the Shiraz, and it's Mataro and Mourvedre finishes the back.
Oh, okay.
So you see, this is how that you can build flavour profiles in there. So that's what Merlot does. That's why it's such a good blending grape, but it's also a really good grape on its own. You know.
Sort of a bit boring.
Well, that's what you say. You
This
say
one at the moment.
This one, yeah. Well, this is a simpler Merlot, but it is still got lots. It's got a few different flavours.
This one would accompany food really well, I think. Like I could have this with dinner quite easily.
This?
If you don't want to focus on the wine so much, like it's quite nice.
Oh yeah, the oil and that garlic.
Oil. So Jen's garlic, remember, it's got some cheese and obviously garlic oil in it. Eat that, coats your tongue.
That's way better.
Yeah. See, Merlot, again, we've been talking Merlot about a simple, easy drinking sort of style of wine from Australia. The ones we're showing today are ones that really do benefit from food. They're there in a European sort of ideal where it's there to accompany the food. And it's also there to enhance the food. So, yeah, this is why it works really well.
Got flowers and everything.
Yeah, no, it's just so pretty. I just don't want to make it up. I don't want to pull it apart. So yeah, if anyone's, if you want to make a note on there, just send us down the bottom of the post. Let us know what you think. Because I tell you what, I must admit, I really enjoy a good Merlot. It's unfortunately it's very hard to find what I consider a classically good Merlot. There'll be a lot of Merlots that we enjoy and we drink and just find it really easy.
So what's like a classic example of like what would you say is like, I suppose I've seen an Australian style Merlot, but like
a classic Australian Merlot,
the one that Australians buy.
Oh,
like
sorry.
Well, because like do people prefer like a Barossa Merlot or like
people,
a
yeah,
South
people
Australian?
prefer a South Australian Merlot because it's softer and easier drinking.
Yeah.
Really, they should be looking at places that do good Cabernet.
So like
Margaret River would be a very good example of Merlot, but they have a tendency to produce Merlot to blend with their Cabernet. So they're Cab Merlots. That's why things like Mosswood's Amy's blend is kind of renowned for being that excellent style. And Margaret River is renowned for its Cabernet and Chardonnay production, not so much for its Merlot and Sauv Blanc.
Is it too warm there, or
no? It's beautiful. It's perfect climate for Merlot over there.
it's just not what the
It's just they Cabernet sells more than Merlot does.
they
So
do
therefore
it
they grow.
well.
Yeah, they do it well. That may or may not be true. That's only an opinion given by me, because that's just my. I haven't actually dug down through the figures for that. So take what I say with a grain of salt when it comes to actual business of the wine regions. It's literally anecdotal what I'm saying. Oh, yum.
I think it's probably gained a bit of darker colour from the age of it as well.
Yes, yeah. In fact, I do prefer Merlots that have got some age to them by a long way.
Does that just give it a bit more complexity?
Yeah, it gives those tertiary notes that come in the back. So you've got that's actually building some leathery notes in there as well. And that's kind of what I like. I really like it. And that's why the French, well, they don't release their Merlots for 2 years.
Yeah.
So,
It's more that old world flavour.
yep. All right. Just going to make sure that was Merlot. I hadn't grabbed Shiraz.
That would have been interesting.
That would have been a very interesting
Like,
taste.
oh, really fruity for a Merlot.
So this one is actually from Adelaide Hills by Amadio. Now, when we first got this wine in, it actually had a different name to it. Do you remember what the name was, Dan?
Mario?
Yeah, the Amadio Merlot.
No, I don't.
Pat? You
Probably,
remember?
yeah.
Rosso Quattro.
Ah, okay.
So the Rosso Quattro, which was Sangiovese, Barbera, Merlot, and I can't even remember what the other one was originally their red blend they put out.
2014, Dirk, and Adelaide Hills. 2017.
17, yep. So what actually happened was the Daniel Marty was bringing out this Rosso Quattro. People weren't really getting their head around what it's supposed to be. So they decided to up the Merlot component, drop back the Sangiovese and Barbera component. But it still has less than 15% Sangiovese and Barbera in there. So try the wine and see how it differentiates from the other 100% Merlot.
The colour's a lot.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a little
lighter.
lighter.
Ruby.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit more ruby rather than that dark.
Way less tannins.
Way less tannins. You'll find that the acidity is a little higher.
Yeah. Fruit's not as intense though.
Fruit's not as intense, and it's not, when I say the fruit's not intense, it still is fruity, it's got lovely fruit to it, but it doesn't have those really earthy, mushroomy kind of flavours to it. It's a little
muddy.
It's a lot more towards the back.
Yeah.
But it's got
mid to back.
Yeah, it's got bright red cherry.
Not much up the front, I don't find.
Well, it's got bright red cherry in the front of it for me. Yeah. So again, so this is what happens when you begin to blend wines together. It says Merlot, it's not 100% Merlot, but
what's the mix with it?
It's about 90% Merlot, 7% Sanjo, and 3% Barbera, I think. Might be the other way around too, because they've decided to release a Sangiovese by itself. They've actually grown in their wines have done so well over time. They've begun to release as straight
So
varieties.
what was it called? Cocktail before?
There was a fourth. It was a fourth one. So it was Sangiovese, Barbera, Merlot, and something else. And because they never really had a Merlot in their portfolio, they decided to push it forward.
Peter likes more fruit flavour here.
Yeah, and that it is. It's far more fruit flavour. By the way, just to give you a heads up, all these wines are about the same price, all between $20 to $25. So we wanted to sort of show in the same vein of what you're looking for. Particularly regionality. So Adelaide Hills, a little bit cooler climate, a bit more continental sort of climate to it, whereas the Lucindale's a bit more of that maritime sort of climate to it. As I said, I quite like. That is much more towards an easy drinking style.
Yeah.
But it's still got enough savouriness and flavour to make the wine interesting. So, okay, Pat, with your palate, what are you sort of looking at? What are you getting?
Well, I definitely like the lack of tannin from the last one is noticeable. The umami flavors missing kind of from it, and I didn't know if that was a traditional Merlot kind of point, but yeah, it's really easy drinking. Like, I don't think it's so much, like, I could just drink that by itself, like, where the other one, like, I think pairs really well with foods, because it doesn't seem as higher acidity.
No, it's not.
So, yeah, the acidity from the last one would clear away your palate a bit.
Actually, I think you'll find that the tannins will clear away your palate. The acidity on this one is actually a little bit higher, sorry.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you can tell that because literally, put it in, actually, if you over the top there, above your teeth is where I usually find tannin. I'm getting a little bit, but not much. However, my cheeks are watering. That's acidity. So the acidity is coming on the cheeks. The tannin usually sits above the teeth without a drying. That's the way I can tell.
Yeah.
In fact, one of the classes we are going to do, and it may not be one we do online, but it might be just one we do in store. We are going to learn how to taste alcohol levels, and we are going to learn how to taste acidity levels. Because it's really important to understand how.
Well, especially with how balanced wines are, like, you know, so the alcohol and the for someone like my level is useful to know.
I found that first one we had to be quite warm.
Yep.
When we had it, it's not. I would say it's be more alcohol than this one, I would think.
Well, it's only about 13.5, I think, isn't it?
14. We need better light, don't we?
You need stronger glasses.
You need bigger glasses.
14 point something.
Oh, it's a 14.5, okay.
14.5 maybe.
This one should be about 13. I thought it was about 13.5 for this one.
This one's definitely lighter.
Yeah.
They shouldn't have to put it in one particular spot.
They don't put it in one spot.
This one's 14 on the dot.
Okay.
So is there stigmas with Merlots as well? Like, because I found I've tried to convince some of my family members to get bottle of Merlot,
Mm-hmm.
they have a stigma based on it that it's a ladies' wine.
Yep. Easy drinking,
yeah,
red wine.
Which
It's
does
so
that affect?
wrong.
It affects the kind of sales. Yeah, PR and.
It is. So I have so many people come and go, I would like to buy a wine for someone who doesn't like to drink wine a great deal. I'll buy a Merlot. What's a good Merlot I can buy? Which is pretty bad.
Yeah. Well, I've literally gone to a wine shop. This is before I even got into wine. I was buying a present for my friend's mom. And I was like, oh, I'm buying a wine as a gift. I don't know bollocks all about wine. What do you recommend? They're like, well, is it a he or a she? It's like, oh, it's a she. It's like, oh, guys prefer cabs, girls prefer Merlots. I'm like, seems like a very generic, broad term.
Yeah. It is. Oh, well, that's true.
Whereas when someone asks me what's the most popular, I say Shiraz.
Shiraz.
Shiraz
is the most popular by a mile in Australia. Globally, though, Cabernet number one.
But it seems like it's gender preferential in a way. Like, well, from what he kind of suggested.
I think it's not so much gender preferential. I think it's more to do with, as I said, when you come into wine.
Yeah.
And women generally come into wine from a white style.
Oh yeah.
So they come in from whites. Yeah, this is just, in the world of what we're in now, I really shouldn't be able to, I shouldn't say this, but I kind of have to, is that women generally start with white wines and come into wine that way. Guys generally start with spirits and red wines and beer, and will come into wine through another path.
Yeah.
But that's, wine cruises and coolers are how women start generally into alcohol and then work their way into wine. So when you come to it, they look at white wines first because white wines are fruitier with acidity, and then they have to deal with tannin, and tannin can be quite off-putting if you're not expecting it.
If you don't build yourself up to it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, that's why if you're going to start into wine and you go, I want to go straight to a Merlot, it's like, oh, wow, okay. Or Mataro, I'll have a straight Mataro. Okay.
Some age.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's what the pathways, and it's the pathway of wine. But when it comes to it though, like you're looking at this one in particular, and easy drinking, quite simple. Well, not simple, but it's quite easy drinking, not too difficult to understand, and really pleasant. Again, benefits from food, as all wine does, but doesn't need it. This one really doesn't need it.
Yeah, well, I thought, because with some of the other wines, it's kind of imperative, well, not imperative, but it's important what foods to mix it with, whereas this, I can see going with, just with the variety, the difference between those two wines, you can go with,
Vanilla ice cream, right?
Yeah, you can go with a lot of things. Yeah.
Why, God? Why?
Oh, ice cream and nice red.
Yeah, a Chico roll.
You need to stop, you are out of control.
This is a nice Chico roll wine.
This food's really fitting for it.
Yeah,
It's very Italian style. It's done for it.
Yeah.
It's olives and the dried capsicum, the dried peppers and stuff.
Yummy. So when you're looking at wine, and in Merlot, say you buy a cheap Merlot, say a $10 Merlot, or less. You buy that, all you're going to get, generally sweet fruit. No real mushroom or forest floor, maybe some tomato bush, but it's all about the mid-palate. Easy drinking mid-palate. That's all you're going to get.
The under $10 ones.
The under $10 ones.
You also get a headache.
You also get a headache too.
And probably pregnant.
No, come on. Now. So that's actually pretty true. Anyway, but as I said, that's how Merlots are generally viewed. And that's how people come into it. But when you start looking at your $20, $30 Merlots, and the good part about Merlot is, really, the cap-out price for Merlot was about $80. So
that's the size it gets.
Pretty much.
Really?
So you look at the Shiraz, I've got Shiraz at $200, $400, $500, $1,000. Cabernet, same thing. $200, $400, $500, $1,000. Merlot, no.
$80 is...
$80 pretty much caps out your Merlot drinking from Australia. Because that stigma that's been attached to Merlot over the years.
That's interesting.
The classic Merlot is Irvine's Grand Merlot.
How's it aged? Oh, we're going to find out.
We're about to have a look. Well, you've seen the start of it, no?
14, yeah, definitely.
14. You just see some. You see that's where the flavours just begin to. Those tertiary notes come in, and it becomes actually. And I don't want to say real wine, but it becomes a very food-driven event wine, essentially.
Get us a little bit more complexity.
Yeah, a bit more complexity, a bit more interest. You're not looking for sweet fruit up front. You're looking for flavour, depth, character, complexity, intensity, and persistence.
Yeah.
So, anyway, so we're going to go to this one. Now, this is a McLaren Vale Merlot. Now, this should, and I haven't drunk this one for a little while, this is more towards what I'm talking about when I say a fruit-forward style of Merlot from Dandelion.
So, being a typical McLaren, we're going to get
some juiciness, some fruit, some jamminess. And stick your nose there and you'll get it straight away.
Ooh. It's just, that's really specific sort of area, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Because it's so warm. Also, the subsoils are really, really important.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's really character.
Yeah. So this is a much more fruit-forward one. So if you're looking for, when I was talking about that sub $10 wine before, imagine that sub $10 wine, put on steroids, built up, and given some body. This is what it is.
Yeah.
See, I've always loved the Dandelion itself as a company is brilliant. Like, I love a lot of their products, if not all of them. The Damsel at the Barossa was actually the one that got me into Merlot.
Yep.
A customer recommended it there, and it's just a brilliant wine.
Yeah. And so it's originally when it was formed, it was Czar and Elena Brooks, Brad Ray, who went on to found Zonti's Footsteps. And I want to say one of the owners of Langmile at one point, Carl Linder. So they were the four guys who kind of were the ones that formed Dandelion to begin with. After a while, Carl, I think, sold his share out. Brad sold his share out as well. Zara and Elena bought Salopine in McLaren Vale, turned that into their southern door. And I went down and judged the 2014, I think, 14 Barossa wine show. And that year was the year that their Queen of Eden Valley Shiraz won. And I ran into Zara there because it won, best wine of the Barossa. I met Zara and Elena, but Zara he is a larger than life man. You meet him, you need to be on your toes. He's a great guy, like a really, really lovely guy, but he's so huge. Like his personality's huge. He's huge. He's a very forward person. He's essentially like a bit of a marketer. And you've got to be really, really careful because he could be your best mate, have a chat to and all the rest of it, or he can be the wag who really makes you uncomfortable. Yeah, essentially.
Makes you look silly?
Yeah, that kind of thing. But
what year is this?
2018.
2018. This is the latest release for it. So, yeah, as I said, they're the ones that produce Dandelion wines, and Dandelion wines are great wines. They also have an heirloom series as well, which is above Dandelion. But again, I find the Dandelion wines to be my sort of really good benchmark wine for McLaren Vale.
What's that one? The Queen, wasn't
Queen
it?
of the Barossa.
Top shelf.
Queen of Eden Valley.
Oh, Queen.
Is it?
Queen of Eden Valley. Yep. We used to have it here. We were selling it for like $110. Now it's sitting about 160, I think it is. It's a great wine, like a really good wine.
That was the one that won the.
That was one. Well, that was 2014.
14.
No, 14 wine show, but it was 2012, I think it was.
Oh, okay.
So wine-wise, not a huge amount of fruit at the front, like, and I'm talking right at the front of your palate. All the mid palate gets filled out though with that beautiful red fruits. Still has some earthiness to it.
I think it's on the nose as well.
Yeah, it's got that earthiness to it. A bit of forest floor, not as funky as forest floor as you'd expect from some older sort of styles. Bright, fresh, vibrant, really vibrant wine. And that's McLaren Vale all over. It's very vibrant. So yeah, what are you sort of looking at, Pat? What are you getting?
I actually get a little bit of like kind of umami and forest floor out of it. Like that's what I noticed. I get like strawberry, like mushed up strawberries and plum.
Yep.
Like it's heaps more complex than some of the other ones. It's also. It's just so smooth, like so smooth, soft, like.
Well, not soft. This is the thing. When we talk about soft, smooth, yes.
Yeah.
Rounded, yes. Soft. When you say soft, you're kind of looking at. People assume soft is lighter, less intense, but the intensity in this is really good.
Yeah.
Watery and soft have a tendency to be put together quite a bit, which is always a bit of a worry.
Yeah.
Probably say it's more balanced.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely balanced.
It's definitely balanced. Yeah, right. But I do find that as a style, if I was just talking to friends, I'd say soft.
Yeah.
It's a softer, easier drinking style, which is kind of indicative of what Australia is looking for in its Merlot.
Yeah.
So this is more towards your classic, but as I said, it's a Merlot that it is it's still a serious Merlot, but it is fruit forward. It is what I expect.
A little bit more tannin to it than the others.
Yeah, the tannin is really important, and this is the part that a lot of people forget. The tannin in Merlot is just as important as the fruit. In fact, as I said, you should be able to confuse Merlot and Cabernet together. And if you try these guys' Cabernet, you will see.
See, that's where I go. Oh, it's a soft Cabernet.
Yeah.
Because it's so well balanced.
Yeah, it's softer.
Tannins are not big and
so
raspy.
it's rounded and again, soft is one of these terms. It's a good term to use as a generic term, but when it comes to actually the identification of the wine, if you say soft, some people may assume it's watery, and it's definitely not that.
So you need to articulate that better.
Yeah, you really do.
Yeah.
So I'd say it's more balanced.
More balanced. I'd just say that it's
easy.
rounder, easier drinking.
Yeah, rounder, easy drinking.
Peter, how would you expect this one to age?
This is actually the interesting part. Because of the fruit, it's still got acidity, it's still got tannin. If you hold it for another 4 or 5 years, then you'll start seeing those tertiary notes that turned up in the first one turn up in this. But because it's got so much fruit into it, it still should show bright, vibrant fruit with the protected by the
a little
acidity.
bit more tannin as well, so probably would still balance out.
It'll balance out quite nicely. I reckon this one could age quite merrily for 10 years. But what's the alcohol on it, Pat? 14 and a half.
14. Do you want to borrow my glasses?
14 and a half, yeah.
14 and a half. I thought it was 14 and a half. So, I find McLaren Vale bigger alcohol wines, 14 and a half to 15, 15 and a half, will fall over quicker. But even though alcohol is a protectorate, I just generally, anecdotally, I've found that they fall over a bit.
What do you mean by fall over?
So, when we're talking about, when wine begins to age, it goes those tertiary notes that we talk about.
Yeah.
So, cigar box, leather. And that's what should turn up in this cigar box, leather, and earthy notes.
Colour usually goes
Yeah.
brown.
Goes towards
Yeah.
bricky sort of style. What I actually find is that for the bigger alcohol ones, they'll begin to get to that colour quickly.
Yeah.
And you go, oh, this is still lovely, and then they lose all the fruit to the front.
Yeah.
And all those esters and fruity flavours that you associate with Merlot are going to be lost, and all you're going to have is all of those leathery cigar box
so you
notes.
just miss the complete mid palate altogether.
The mid palate will be filled with all those earthy notes and cigar box notes rather than fruit notes.
Yeah.
So, and that's alcohol wines across the board that I've discovered. However, high alcohol wines. However, that being said though, there are wines that have got particularly higher tannins and acidity that have lasted better. See, the three things that protect a wine when aging is alcohol, acidity and tannin. But high alcohol seems to be mitigated if you don't have enough acidity and enough tannin. So it's like a juggler throwing 3 balls in the air. If you've got the right amount of acidity and the right amount of tannin, and the right amount of alcohol, the wine will stay in balance.
So is there a certain varietal that usually copes more with aging, or?
Yeah, there are. There's things like Cabernet Merlot is another one that copes with aging particularly well. In fact, you can throw so much oak over Merlot that it's the second.
That's what I was going to ask actually. How much oak do you normally get? Because I'm not getting a lot of oak on the palate with these.
No, this is the thing. I don't think any of these have really thrown a huge amount of new oak on them. I think they're all older oak and this could be a detriment to the Merlot, as we're talking about with the style.
Yeah.
You put new oak over Merlot, you should see lovely vanilla bean, hazelnuts, cedary notes turn up there, like you would in a Cabernet.
That would still, vanilla would probably up front of the palate, but
Everything else is the mid palate.
But surely there's a market for that,
there is.
That style.
Absolutely, but well,
to invest your industry into that market
we've just literally said Australia views Merlot as an entryway to it.
They don't want a different
$80 tops.
$80 tops.
How much is that going to cost you?
Yeah, but imagine if you had an $80 top Merlot, then you came out with a $120 Merlot. Everyone like, why is it $120?
Yeah, you have to justify that.
Yeah.
That's really hard. There are some, but I mean, if you're going to pay $120 for Merlot, get a Bordeaux.
So did we actually answer that question?
Sorry.
How long would we expect
10 years.
10
I reckon 10 years. 10 years is a good litmus for that. As a general rule, Australian wines, 15 years. Mm-hmm. Now, I will be yelled at by many winemakers saying we can age it a lot longer than that, but I don't. Look, I drank a 1969 Shiraz Tokay. It's actually was Shiraz. It was 50. Well, actually at that time it was 48 years old when I did it. I tried that. It was lovely, but it had no fruit to the front of it, and I knew I was drinking an old wine, so therefore I knew what to expect. I have had, we tried the Cab Merlot from El Nino.
Yeah.
How jammy was that?
Yes.
That was just jam.
It was going to fall over.
Yeah.
It was just off falling over.
The nose.
But it wasn't 2012 that one, wasn't it?
No, that was 2000 and I think it was
one bottle there. Might have to check that.
Yeah, might be 2012. I don't know.
Yeah, it was a pretty old one.
Yeah.
Like, from what I remember.
But it was 8 years old.
Yeah.
And that's a younger, less intensity made wine.
Yeah.
So that's going to have, it's not going to last as long as a well-made. So the estate range. The estate range wines, we're looking at 2012, 2013 for their wines.
Yeah.
And so that's 7 years old.
Yeah.
And they'll last for another 3 years at least.
So because they've had more
decent
oak,
winemaking,
more
better oak, etc. over the top of it.
The others were made to drink.
Yeah. So the thing is, that's what I'm saying. So 10 years, we all are kind of in agreement.
But yeah,
In 10 years, it's going to be just on the cusp. So 15 years is a very good litmus for a well-made Australian wine. After 15 years, it is literally going to be a dice roll. You are going to be seeing, unless it's specifically made for it, like Penfolds Grange, don't bother drinking it until it's 20 years old. Which is a real shame if you happen to be like 70 years old and buying Grange, because you're probably not going to see it.
I don't plan on living 20 years longer.
Oh, shut up, you. Good grief.
It's a long investment for a wine.
It's a long investment. Well, that's the thing though. But you look at if we had wine prices today that we did back in the 70s and early 80s, late 70s, you would buy a dozen of those and throw them in your cellar or throw them underneath the house somewhere.
The Dandelion.
Of Dandelion.
Now you buy one a day and just drink the damn thing.
Yeah. But, so you...
Oh, it could be just me.
Right. So you'd spend, I think the price for a wine of that quality at that time would have been $7 or $8.
Yeah.
Now, if you're spending $7 or $8, you buy a dozen. You throw it under the house. Next week, you buy another dozen, and you might drink a bottle of each.
Here and there, yeah.
But then over the year, over the next 12 years, you drink a bottle a day. One bottle per year. Which is why people had huge cellars.
I think you're right the first time.
No, a bottle a day is probably not beyond. I'd like to point out, I actually have 2 wine fridges at home, both at 30 bottles each. that both get refilled regularly.
You got a wine fridge?
I have.
Same as that.
Yeah, same as that. And,
Oh no, that's how I just drink it when I get
you
home.
just drink it when you get home, I know. But I can't keep
Mine's
my
like
wine
you
in
get
there.
home.
Yeah, yours. Actually, I do worry about you some days. I've just bought these 2 bottles of wine. Okay, Dan, and I see you walking down. I'm just keeping an eye. You get necking another way out the door.
You got the
Get in the
Pajero
car,
modded.
go, shit, need another bottle.
You got the Pajero modded to run off the Pinot Gris.
Yeah. Actually, my favourite one was that you went out one day. Literally, you went downstairs and then you walked back, and then you got 2 more bottles. And I went, Jesus, that was quick. And you went, no, I dropped them. That was all right then. Right, now we're going to look at the aged one. So this is 8 years old.
That's it. Want a straw?
Actually, it's not a bad idea. 8 years old, Masoni Estate Range.
Looking forward to that one.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this one all day too.
Oh, it's definitely got a slightly...
Oh yeah, it's a bit of brown to it.
Okay,
Yeah.
just looking at it.
Brown, what's the proper term?
Garnet.
Colour. Garnet.
That is garnet.
Really?
Yep, garnet. That is literally garnet.
Yeah.
Look like my brown crayon.
So if you're looking at red wine, and you're trying to adjudicate red wine, you've got purple, which is usually very young and generally going to be Shiraz. Ruby, which is almost all red wine. And then garnet, which is generally aged or it can be Cabernet or Merlot. Okay?
So when it starts going brown, what colour are you going to call that?
You start getting this bricky colour through it. Bricky colour. But, what's they say? I'm trying to think of the exact rules.
It's like that bottle there opened up.
brownie.
Brownie, yeah, brownie. Oh. Okay. Just on the nose, I'm getting oak on that.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, I get oak and then like forest floor and like
Yep.
umami.
Yep.
Yeah, leather.
Actually, you know the best way, just for you people at home too, if you're trying to figure out what umami is, how do you reckon you could learn how umami tastes?
I don't think you should.
I'm gonna take my own umami. How's your umami going? That's good.
Well, the way I learned in the book was it's kind of that mushroomy kind of taste. That it's not bitter. It's not savory. It's kind of that. It's a different one. Like it's
Okay. The best way to test umami: get a mushroom, a sliced mushroom, put it in the microwave for 20 seconds,
and just eat it,
and then eat it afterwards. And that's umami. That's what umami tastes like.
So it's raw, but
No, it's cooked.
20 seconds.
20 seconds. Just get a sliced mushroom.
Sliced. Okay.
A sliced mushroom, put it in the microwave for 20 seconds, and that's umami. That's the best way to do it. It's kind of an earthy, kind of a savoury, kind of a and that's what umami is. So
You're on a diet today, Pat.
What?
You're on a diet.
No, I just like friends at the local bakery were throwing out all their old stock, and my girlfriend was good enough to get all of it, and now I'm fed on pies for the next week.
actually, I'd like to actually do one of these over at Tranquil.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I can probably organise that.
Because I actually I saw the new.
I have it in.
You have it in.
Yeah.
Yes. I saw the menu. Yeah, but I saw the menu.
Yeah.
Tranquil.
No, the food there is like I can attest. It is brilliant.
David Staver is watching.
It's still dry July.
Yes, did you get a message today? He wants us to come, or he wants to know if we want to go on a tour, basically, a brewery tour.
Yep.
$150 a head, lunch, and so coast breweries.
Okay.
I don't know how, I meant to ask him, hey, how do we get home?
Yeah, that's what I want to know.
As long as the bus picks us up, Melania and brings us back to Melania, that'll work. Usually they pick up in Noosa and take you back to Noosa, by the way.
I walked from what was it? Not Bloodrock. Sippy Downs back to Mulaney. It's not too long.
What, 3
Sounds
days?
long.
No, it's only about 14 hours.
Sippy Downs to back to Melania, 14 hours.
Yeah.
Jesus, what, you crawling?
Oh no, I was really drunk. I
Oh,
walked in
okay.
circles for a long way.
You're all 2 steps that way, 4 steps that
I took
way.
a shortcut.
You're all concerning. Let's drink wine.
Yeah.
Anyway, so again, on the nose, not a huge nose, but vanilla, cedar. There's some. I do get a little bit of forest floor, mushroom, earthiness. Flavour profile itself, no massive sweet fruit up front, but it's all in the mid palate. You can feel it, and the persistence is long. You've got leather, you've got cedary notes, you've got a hint of vanilla, but it's much more to do with the bottle development of the grape itself. So that's the tertiary characters that are coming in. So whilst it still has a little bit of fruit there, it's all tertiary character.
Yeah.
Now take away that little bit of fruit, and you have all tertiary character. That's when it's aged to that part. And then after that, it'll start turning into port and sherry characters.
Yeah.
That's when it's fallen over.
Yeah. So when it misses that little bit of fruit, and it just becomes.
So you know that Riesling that we opened that tasted like sherry.
Well, you said it tastes like
that's
sherry. We
fallen
said it
over.
tastes like other stuff. It was nasty.
It was lovely.
Yeah. No. It wasn't. But that's like. So that's like an example of what an aged Merlot.
That's an aged Merlot. That is.
And that's what it can do.
Yep. And that's what it can do. That's what it looks like.
It seems weird that with all the wineries in Australia that no one's investing in Merlot.
Yep.
Well, I think that's beautiful.
And this is pretty much what I'd consider to be its apex.
So yes, Peter.
Yep, it is. Yeah, it's right at its peak. This is the Merlot as it's come together. Probably if it was a couple of years younger, you'd still have enough fruit in there if you like that kind of thing. I personally love what it is as it is. And in fact, this is the kind of wine I would happily take to dinner parties. And I would be drinking this at dinner parties with people.
What food would you put with this?
And the good part is anything. You've got everything except fish, essentially.
Do you think an average Merlot drinker would like this stuff?
No way in hell.
Yeah, maybe like
this.
But do you think you could wean them onto this? Quicker than you could wean them onto a Shiraz or a Cabernet or a.
Again, Shiraz is fruity enough that they go from Merlot to Shiraz.
Yeah, they wouldn't go to an aged Merlot.
No.
They'd go to a
Shiraz
quicker. Yeah.
It's not until you start getting into wine and start looking at it in a long-term prospect that you even bother thinking what's going to happen to my wine. Because people think once you've bottled it, it stays the same forever.
Yeah.
But it doesn't.
that little bit of air in the top.
Yeah.
Still lets it age and do.
And cork is another thing. If you happen to have cork in there, it's actually one of those things that if a European person was going to sit down and drink one of these wines, which one do you think they'd go for?
Right. Yeah.
This one. Absolutely.
So that's how they drink it over there.
In order, they go that, and then that.
Yeah. They probably wouldn't even drink that. Would they?
Australian would go that,
reverse.
that. So this is what I was saying. You've got two different ways of coming into wine, and the European style. Like I actually had a guy come in the other day, and he went, "Oh, we tried some wines and we didn't like them, and they were actually it was stag wine. It was stag wine from somewhere else. St. Hubert's actually it was. We did not like it, and it was da 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 da." And I'm sitting there going, "Oh, okay, that's really unusual." He said, "Oh, we've lived in France for many years. We love our French wines." I said, "Okay, you didn't like the stag." So I tried them, and I said, "Where do you live in France?" And he said, "Oh, we lived near the border near Cadaqués and Perpignan, which is kind of the Roussillon region." And I went, "Oh, in that case, you're like Grenache-driven Australian stuff." So I sold him some stuff. He came back and was like, "Oh, that is perfect. That is what we're after." So they're in that southern part of France where the fruit-forward kind of wines do really well.
On the border of Spain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was that fruit-forward kind of wine they did really well. If you're in the more northern parts of France, like Loire or even Bordeaux, or going into Burgundy, you will probably prefer to drink those more aged-looking style wines. So, whilst no one's opinion is wrong, culturally, you've got to understand where people are coming from. So it's quite an interesting little thing. When it comes to sales, it's always fun to learn about this kind of thing, what you like and what you dislike.
This is a bit of a shock after the dandelion, I think.
Yeah, I did.
I'm starting to enjoy it more now that the dandelion fruit and everything's gone out of my mouth.
I actually did that.
It's adjusted a bit.
I did that for a reason because if we did it the other way, which is that, and then onto that, we'd have had a build-up of thing. I needed to get that distinct difference.
It's very distinct.
And you need that distinct difference to see what young Australian style Merlot is to older age style Merlot that you're looking to see more of an old world style.
But the alcohol must have been really well balanced in this one too. Is it 14
13 and a half, I think it is.
Because it's not.
About 13 and a half. Or it was.
Oh, 13.9.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Got it.
So that's what held it up this long, maybe.
I think the tannin and the oak have held it really well. The acidity.
Definitely the oak, because the oak's coming out of it now. If these had oak, I can't taste it. But maybe in 8 years you'll taste oak coming out of it.
I don't think so.
Was it Darwin oak though? Like.
Yeah, they're all oak.
Yeah, but new
Old
oak.
oak.
Old oak. Yeah. See, yeah, I'd like to see what a Merlot can do if you do it on new oak and like give it the same kind of preferential treatment that Shiraz or Cabernet would go for in Australia.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
So,
But if it was done on a more mass scale, where you'd be more competitive, and then you get a more competitive market, and then prices might start going up.
it's one of those things. It's really difficult because now we're talking about marketing more than a wine. So it's really difficult to get people's head around what they want. So, as I said, if someone walks into the shop tomorrow and says, I'm thinking of getting into wine, I've been drinking sweet wines, what do you recommend I drink to get into dry red wine? What are you going to say?
Mastoni Merlot.
Mastoni Merlot, really? That's a punch in the face.
Yeah, I know. And then when they come back, what the hell was that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, try this Shiraz. Oh, this is lovely.
You literally go, that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they go, oh, I really like that. Well, you're still not going to get them to go to there.
No.
You get
Yeah,
to go to
so you
Shiraz
got to go
afterwards.
to Amadio.
And this is the interesting part. See, what we're doing in store now with people, with customers, is what parents used to do with their kids. They used to show them things that they would like. There's a thing called busher. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like when my mum used to hide veggies underneath my meat pies to get me veggies.
Yeah, you still don't.
Yeah.
Anyway, but you know, like, sorry, you're meowing. Just calling me right out. That's just terrible. So you're looking at how to build consumers and to build, particularly people who will trust you in what you're doing. And so now that you guys have actually understood and tried this, you will actually know who you're talking to and which way to work with them.
It's actually a really good in the terms of marketing wine. It's a brilliant step to know. Like if you get someone coming along, it's like, oh, I usually drink like these sweeter style like sweeter ciders, RTDs, spirits and all that. It's like I want a nice wine to try. Well, Merlot, like a fruit full of young Merlot,
But that Merlot in particular.
Yeah, that I already spoke the damsel anyway because I think it's brilliant.
So
I couldn't say I've actually drank a Merlot other than that. The reps come in and give us a taste.
So my favourite Merlot, hands down, for the last 30 years essentially. My favourite Merlot I've ever drunk was actually an Amadio Merlot. It was their reserve Merlot. It was about $45 a bottle. It was stunningly good. It was like that.
It's got a grey label, isn't it?
Yeah, that's one. It was like that, but they don't make it anymore. It was $45 a bottle, and it was just, it was the Dutch nuts.
That's what I thought was the Red Queen or something.
No, it wasn't the Red Queen. That was the Amadio Reserve Merlot.
Oh, okay.
Block 4 or something like that. But it was brilliant, and it was really, really good.
Oh, actually, sorry, no, I was thinking about Red Queen down.
Yeah, it's Shiraz, yeah. So, it was exceedingly, because you could happily mistake it with Cabernet. And in fact, if I pulled that wine out and said, and I poured you a glass, and then I grabbed an aged Cabernet.
See, I haven't had too many aged Cabernets. Like, I don't know what the age factor contributes with a Cabernet either.
Exactly what you're seeing on here.
Yeah.
It's
like
every
tertiary, cigar box and all that, yeah.
You look at that.
Like, honestly, for my, I'm confused in the way that I saw wine because my favourites was that, but then that, and then the Giorgio, then the Amadio. So it's like the aged, then the fruit, than the age and the fruit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, there's nothing wrong with that because I mean, I like all the wines for a different reason. My big thing is I think the wine. Okay, so we'll do the winners thing. You said that one.
Masoni. Well,
Masoni?
yeah.
That's what you said.
Yeah.
Yeah, my phone's going flat, so I can't see the video anymore.
Okay.
But, for drinking,
No, just what you like.
that's all I like.
Yeah.
Let me try this one again.
Okay.
Mardio for me.
Amadio. I'm
This
actually
is good, but
I'm going for the
I think I'd
Masoni.
rather just drink that.
I like a wine that I don't have to age myself.
Yeah, I'm not that patient.
Yeah, I'm not that patient either. So, on that note, thank you all for turning up. We are going to do next week we're going to be doing a little bit different. Pat wanted to know about sparkling wine. So normally I hold that off to December when we do a champagne masterclass.
Ooh, can't wait to open that one up there.
Oh, you need to stop. We can't afford that one.
$300. We're going to see if it's
Oh,
alright.
the $300 one, you can do that. We may not get many people joining us for it, but still.
So,
Well, it's $100 each.
$100 each, yeah, that's fine. We're going to do a sparkling tasting. So we're going to go through Cava, Prosecco, a New World Australian sparkling, and we're going to have a look at a traditional champagne. So we're going to talk all things sparkling next week, barring sparkling red, which we talked about already. So until then, drink well, drink like a savvy. Cheers.
Cheers. Like that.